can't. So. All right, so this is going to be a little bit of a different setting. This is going to be more like a mastermind conversation than it is necessarily training and coaching, to really hammer out something I think is really important for the industry, and that's around the conversation of how to scale to 100 transactions and above, and what that formula looks like, and what an agent would need in place to make that happen from a people standpoint, a process standpoint, and from a technology and tools standpoint. And so I kind of want to this literally just be like a mastermind where we bounce ideas and thoughts off of each other on what that looks like, and get some feedback, so that way next week when this group meets again together, usually there's like 20 people on this, as you guys know, but we were having a problem with the link. We can have a really good substance conversation around that conversation. And moving forward, these calls are all about how to get to 100 transactions and above, with a focus on obviously lead conversion and making sure the people, process, and tools are coming together to get to 100 transactions and above. Some of our clients are already doing that. So one of my clients, Terry Bias, is, she's actually, she was at about 150 transactions. She hired an ISA and fixed her database marketing problem, and fixing those two problems this year, us working together, she's almost at 300 transactions this year. So it just goes to show you, when the people and the process and tools come together and you just make some minor tweaks, when you already have a core foundation, what can happen to your business, how you can double your results with lead conversion when you're focused on the right things. Hey, Kitty. So anyway, that's kind of the set. I'm going to I want to make sure this is being recorded. So if it's not being recorded, Claire, are we good? Are we good for the recording? Go ahead and start.
Yep, you're good to go.
Okay, sweet. That's awesome. All right. So getting into a little bit about where this is coming from. So, for those of you that are watching this on Facebook or seeing this video later, I'm very passionate about lead conversion in our industry, and it being a problem. Lead generation is great. It's important. Digital marketing is great. It's important. But what's even more important is book appointments. And I've been listening a lot. I've been sitting in a lot of conversation there's a lot of like sexy topics out there around video marketing and branding and social media, and all those things are really good. I'm not trying to hate on those, but what I am sick of, and really gonna get the message out there, is coaches and influencers kind of painting this picture where if they just have this perfect social media profile, or like this perfect video marketing campaign, that it's going to solve all their freaking problems. And it's not true. It's the furthest from the truth. And they're giving this perception out there, like you can scale your business by just having a good video marketing funnel or something like that, or like having a good Facebook campaign. If you just do this Facebook campaign, it's going to solve the issues, right? And so where my passion comes in is in 2014, I worked with an agent and ended up partnering with this agent who became a broker, and he was doing about 47 transactions when we started. In the very next year, by just adding an ISA and an inside sales agent and a good follow-up program, we went to 151 transactions in 1 year by just adding those things. Okay. So let's start off talking about what tools need in place. Okay. What tools in place to scale to 100 plus to 200 plus transactions. Let's talk about what needs to be in place. And Beverly, I know you're working out of 10 different systems right now. And obviously our core product is revolving around, having the right technology stack, having the right tools in place to scale to 150, 200 transactions. But I want to hear from Jonathan. I want to hear from whoever wants to participate in this conversation on what tools need to be in place to make that work.
Follow-up systems.
I have been in quite a few website or CRMs that have 200 leads come in a month, and there's so much focus on what's new coming in.
Yeah.
They were having conversations, or they were depending on the artificial intelligence. The leads were getting moved into a contacted stage, but there was no follow-up after. So all of the front loading coming in is overriding conversations that have already been had. So once I got in and caught up all of the new leads that were going to answer the phone, I started diving deeper into the dashboard, going into the leads that got moved to a contacted stage that got forgotten about. And I actually went live this morning. I had one dashboard that has over 3,600 leads that have had a conversation that was not tagged or has an overdue reminder or no reminder.
Yeah.
And by going through those, I was able to set like 4 great opportunities today. So it's really the follow-up processes where the meat is falling off the bone that they're just losing.
Right. So what is that? Let's talk about that. Like, I know we've probably all sat on trainings that have heard, hey, look, we got to have good follow-up, but like, let's talk about what that looks like and the barriers that stops us from actually following up properly. Right. So
I think a lot of it is not asking the right questions to know when or how to follow up, because so many people are saying, I'm not ready right now. I'm just kind of tire kicking. And so if we ask them, well, what are your future plans? When can we follow up? When does it make sense for us to check back in with you? And it's funny because some people themselves don't even know. They're like, well, or they're saying next year. Okay, well, it's October.
Yeah.
Is that spring, summer, or fall?
Right. So if I could, Beverly, because where you're going is great. You're getting in, I think you're getting more into actually making the calls. I want to, before we start, tools that need to be in place and then get to that, if that's okay with you.
So when we have the right questions, I'm leading into that. So you're right on point.
I'm sorry.
When you ask the right questions, you know where to put them for the future follow-up, because it's all about qualifying the follow-up. Just like when you have a qualified lead that says, I want to buy now. Well, it's qualifying them and not just putting them in A, B, C, D or hot, lukewarm, cold.
Yeah.
You need to know why. So it's, again, going back to the storage room and having things in the boxes that are unmarked. We need to be able to put people in the grocery store on a shelf that's properly labeled to be able to know when to go back and properly mark them. So if we're monitoring their activity, if we're confirming their email address, and they want updates on a weekly basis, on a bi-weekly or monthly basis, we can monitor the activity, because the whole objective is find out where they are in the process and when to follow up. So if we know when to follow up based on their activity, because we want to keep them, because they're in 5 different platforms. But he who has the conversation is the one that's positioning themselves for future opportunity, but we need to know where to put them. And monitor activity is my favorite place to put them, because if you're in a dashboard and you're putting all the leads in a group together, you can view their activity as long as you have your IDX on, and you can view your last phone call. So you can rate your follow-ups based on activity and phone calls, if that makes sense.
Okay. Jonathan, when we built this out, based on what she's saying, from a technology stack, what do you see the biggest problem is when it comes to the right tools being in place to execute follow-up using technology? And like, let's say somebody's hiring an ISA or has agents calling the leads themselves. What are you seeing? What are you seeing right now when you're onboarding clients and you're working with our clients? What do you really focus on making sure is in place so the proper follow-up happens the right way?
Sure. So it really does come down to just putting all your eggs in one basket. That's always the biggest problem I've run into. It's everybody will pick one medium of reaching out to their database, email. I'm an email guy. I don't call, I don't text, I email. And that's all they do. And that might work for a portion of the database. But the example I was just thinking of in my head is if I was going to be marketing to my grandmother who doesn't own a computer versus marketing to my buddy I went to college with, if I tried to call him, My buddy I went to college with, he would never answer the phone. I don't think I've talked to him on the phone in the last 3 years, but I text him. He's back to me in 5 minutes. I tried to text my grandma. It could be years before she even realized that technology exists. You need to be able to have a diverse way of reaching out to leads so you can really reach out to someone in the best medium that they prefer. Because if you make it hard for them to get back in touch with you, or if you're asking them to adopt a whole other piece of technology to communicate with you, such as something as simple as texting or phone calls or email, you're going to lose that portion of your database immediately. And Beverly, that's perfect. Yes. Land, sea, air, and call, text, and email. And now that we have options for social media, now that we have options for silent voicemails, I mean, there's so many different ways out there to get in front of people. It really is the more ways that you have to do it. And especially with our program, the number one thing we focused on is making sure we give you the core 5 of social media, email, text message, of course, incorporating video, and then some type of voicemail / additional texting, like video texting, stuff like that. If you can diversify your marketing and your follow-up to include those, you will open yourself up to double, if not triple, the amount of people in your database who are interacting with the different medium you're sending.
Right. So, and I think it's so important, especially, I think we got a lot of names on here that I haven't seen before. So I'm really excited to see some different names here and some people that are returning. And I think when it comes to scaling your business and getting to that 150 transaction mark and above. And that's really what we want to see for our clients, to go to that 200 transaction mark. It's so important to take the time and energy to focus on making sure you have your multi-channel marketing approach down. And I know it's difficult because as a busy entrepreneur, it's the last thing you want to freaking think about. I mean, let's just be real about it. Like, and that's where my passion, why we've spent the money and the time and energy developing this product, to really have not only the tech stack, but have a really good sales and marketing plan to go with it. Right. So layer number 1, from a tool standpoint, they can help you. They can give you leverage. Now, I don't mean to be frank. It's a bunch of BS though, if you're not logging in and using the tools, right? Let's just be real about it. If we don't have a marketing coordinator, or in my case, Kyle, I don't know if Kyle's on with us today, but I have a sales and marketing coordinator that will log in and making sure that the plan's being executed on a daily basis. Right. So I think from a tool standpoint, you did a good job, Jonathan, explaining. If I'm hearing you right, if I summed up what you said, you need a multi-channel marketing campaign that's running simultaneously for your different types of lead sources. You're on mute. Yep.
See here. Yes, I'm agreeing with you though. If you do not have multi-channel marketing running, you are going to miss any person in that database that you're not marketing to them the way they prefer. And I mean, if you think about text messages, 80% open rate, emails, 20% open rate. That is such a huge difference right there, where if you're only sending emails, you can safely say you're only getting in front of 20% of your database. Or if you're sending a text message and an email, 80 plus 20, I mean, 100% of the people in the database looking at open rates are going to see something from you eventually.
Awesome.
And Jonathan, taking that just a little step further is, don't depend on just that. You need all 3.
Right. These are all meant to be in addition to what you're already doing. But these are quick and easy tools where once you get used to using them, and let's be real, we all send emails, we all send text messages, we all make phone calls, work related, personal related. We all know how to do it. And it's just building that into your business and your marketing plan makes the difference right there.
So I want to hear from the group right now. What challenges do you have in making sure that you have your multi-channel marketing approach up and running? Is using as many channels as you can. What challenges are you having right now? Feel free to take yourself off mute, or if you feel more comfortable, just pop your questions or concerns or thoughts in the chat based on, we're talking people, process, and tools today. So now we're on tools. So when it comes to your technology stack and multi-channel marketing, what challenges are you running into, or do you run into, that slows this process down for you, or maybe just it's not giving you the leverage that you thought or expected? Whether it's with our tools or anything else you're trying to use. So I'd like to hear from you guys. So Donnie, I know you've been on with us a couple times. Lola, I think you've been on us a couple times. I'd love to just hear from you guys. Sorry.
Hey, this is Donnie. I don't know if you can hear me.
Yeah. Yeah, Danny.
So I am on the road.
No worries.
I was listening while I'm driving. But as far as challenges go, I face time challenges on a daily basis, as we all do.
Yep.
I'm just ramping up with the system. Just coordinating my time for outreach. That's the biggest thing for me, and that's why I'm trying to spread it around the team. To make it a little bit more cohesive and have everybody doing a little bit of something rather than one person doing a whole lot of nothing.
That's good.
So, I mean, that really, for me, it's the time.
Okay. That's I would say like, somebody who's a top producer like yourself, that's a common thing, right? Is just finding the time to actually execute the technology the right way. And like you said, the outreach the right way. If I'm hearing you right, that's pretty much what you're saying, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So who else is having the same running into the same thing? It's really a time making, finding the time to do the outreach and using the tech, whether it be, us or with other programs that you've used. And if there's anything else too. So anything else you're running into? Hey, April, how you doing? Anybody else care to share? So Kim, how about you? I'd love to hear if you kind of what's going on in your world as far as how you feel with your multi-channel marketing approach, your technology, what you're thinking about this conversation before we move on to the tech or move on from the tech.
My challenge, can you hear me?
Yeah.
My challenge is learning the system. I was on a call the other day with John and we did something. And then I said, how do you do that again? To me, I probably took about an hour figuring out what he just did.
Yeah.
It's almost better if, like, say at 9 a.m. in the morning to do your Zillow updates, to do it consistently and every time. That way, once you do it, you learn it.
Yeah.
I know that we did 50 and I know that I probably have about 400 Zillow leads and I need to do 50 more. Mm-hmm. And then he says, don't do them all at the same time because you got to answer them.
Right. Like with the text come back. Is that what you mean?
Correct.
Yeah.
Right. So, and I actually had 2 that replied to me out of the 50, which I guess is pretty good.
Yeah.
And so I go, oh yeah. So they remembered me, but it's just being consistent with it. And it was just so difficult for me to figure it out again.
Right. Because I think what you're saying is that if you're not in the pattern of doing it, then when you go back to do it, it's like remembering how to do it. And then the frustration of actually logging in there and then figuring it out and thinking about it all over again. Is that kind of what you're saying?
That's correct.
Yeah.
And I haven't done it again because I know how long it took me the last time. And time is of importance. So,
right.
So at this point, it's just kind of, if you don't do it, you're just wasting your money.
Right. Right. Absolutely. Well, one of the things that I would, let me ask, how many, like Kim and Donnie, do you guys have an admin that works for you part-time or full-time by chance?
No, because then I'd have to take the time to train them.
Right. Absolutely.
And no, on my end, I usually end up with most of that stuff in my lap, but I'm starting to learn the value in delegating. So it's a slow approach. I've got a team where I have one individual who's been with me for the better part of 6 years, but she's been like a solo bird. Yeah. And a very close friend of mine. And, I'm reeling her back in. She took some time off to have a baby. And so she's back. And for her, she's kind of relearning. So it's kind of a perfect opportunity for me to say, okay, we're going to do things a little bit differently. And so that's been working out. And then I've got another young lady we've been, I think we're going on 15 years, back when I was a RE/MAX agent 13, 14, 15 years ago. And so she, however, is a part-time agent and is on the call now. That's, she's still developing and figuring out, what, I think I just want to do this and only this. So if with her, she's been bitten by the motivation bug through some of these calls, because we've we sat at a kitchen table and we made calls, and and some of these calls have worked out. I just matter of fact just put a property in the market. It's going on today from a call that I made 2 weeks ago to a FSBO. And I knew the FSBO. I had sold the house to that FSBO before, but that FSBO says, yeah, we're all set. But then 2 weeks later, FSBO calls me up and says, yeah, my brother's going to sell a house. Why don't you come over? I was like, when? Now. When do you want to list it? Now. Okay. So, and then third individual is a new agent. She's former architect, design person. And again, lifelong friend. My team's very close. So she's probably more motivated. That's Mary. And trying to spread the responsibilities around so that we do act cohesively is what I'm attempting to, make a normal everyday habit. So that there's no weight on any one leg of the table. And also so that if someone happens to be out of commission, the momentum does not slow down. So that's kind of where I'm at with that. And again, to the young lady's point who just spoke, catching up with learning the system is a trick or two once in a while as well.
Yeah.
But we'll get there.
Absolutely. And anything we can do to help with that, we offer. You guys probably have already participated at least one of them, but those Done With You workshops, we want to be able to help with that. And what we find is if somebody can really engages and understands it enough to where they can either get consistent with it or delegate with it, that's when or delegate it to somebody that can be consistent with it. The results are phenomenal. And it's so, I know it's so tough in the beginning to wrap our mind around that. But I'm working with a client right now, a little bit more one-on-one. And one of the things she's dealing with is kind of the same thing. She's got like 400 leads a month, a lot of leads a month coming in. And she has our tech suite. And what she did is she committed for an hour a day to go in there and figuring out how to use the technology. And then what she found is she found somebody that could kind of help leverage her time in that over time. And she's on pace to adding another about 20 transactions on top of what she's currently doing once she got that system in place. And it's not easy. And that's why I like having these conversations. But one of the things that is so tough about our industry, we're wearing so many different hats. And what I find is, and I'm going to share my screen here. What I find is the number one issue in our industry that we have to deal with, if you look at my screen, is if we got enough leads coming in, it's what's happening in this middle of the funnel. It's taking them, it's keeping that consistent with those activities. And I have a really good admin course. I know I know it might not be a fit for everyone's business model, and I want you guys to be aware of it. If you can have an agent or somebody, if it's not going to be you, give you a little bit of leverage in that, it will really help. You'll see your conversion go up quite a bit, as you guys can imagine. If we can get this really, really honed in there. And that's where comes down to like the next thing is, if we got the technology in place, it comes down to what person's going to use the technology, right? Who's going to actually do it on a consistent basis? Because let's be real about it. If we can't figure that part out, it doesn't matter what we sign up to, as far as technology goes, or even lead generation, because it's hard to convert the leads if we got to just depend on us calling them, right? So that's just something to think about. It sounds like, if I may, it sounds like an action step would be for the two people that spoke up, is really finding that person, or you taking the time to really figure out how to interact best with the system, and also give us feedback on how we can make it more user-friendly and better as we go. But for me personally, Kyle and Ron, I don't want to speak for you if you want to chime in here. When I was able to get Kyle trained up on using the technology for our brokerage, because just so everyone knows, if this is your first time joining us, we also own our own brokerage. So we don't just go sell tech to people, technology and awesome tools. We actually use it to grow and scale our brokerage. And Kyle helped us a lot, be more consistent with using using the technology. Ron, do you want to speak to anything along those lines before we transition?
Yeah, the only thing I would say is, and just getting back to some of the other points, you have to stand back and you have to say to yourself, all right, what could I give somebody else to do that I'm doing myself now? And if I could do that, could I spend more time following up on clients? It's a simple, if you will, I'll give you an example. If you refuse to have somebody take care of your lawn, okay, now hear me out. So you get your lawnmower and you're in the and you take care of your lawn once a week takes you 2 hours to dial it all in. How much money could have you made in that 2 hours by talking to your clients, prospecting, whatever the case may be? Do you think it would offset the $25 or $30 you just saved to cut your grass yourself? Are you following me? And I used to think that all the time when I was real active in real estate. I'm going, why am I doing this? I could be having an open house today, meeting people. I could probably make $3,000 or $4,000 instead of here. I'm sitting here cutting my grass. What am I, an idiot? And you have to say, what could I give to somebody else? You look at that funnel that's on that screen right now. That center portion is you. And that's where you make your money, because you have to drop them down to the next level. So when you're following up yourself, it's you doing it, not somebody you hired to follow up, not a machine to follow up. Let the technology bring it into you. Let it sort it out. But once that's done, now you have to be active in it. And if you're not, you're just cutting your grass. That's all you're doing. You're not making any money.
Yeah, that's a really good point. That's a really good point.
And this is what Kyle does. Kyle's in there and he's banging away at it for us. And, and it's so hard. And I feel so bad for him sometimes because he works so hard. And then the agents just go, they go, what do I do now? Call him up and talk to him. What's the matter with you? Reach out. And the thing is about all this, and that's all I hear. It's all coming in, right? But is it coming in? How are you following out? How's it going out with you? And you have to reach so many people in order to get those. It's again very simple. It's not how many calls you make; it's how many you get that keeps you in business. And thank you, Beverly. And this is the key. And if you're not getting the calls, it's because you're not putting your time and spending your time in the right places, so that you can be. You're actively getting contacted and you're following up and you're talking to people.
Yeah. To that point, transitioning into the people, it's tough to do because nobody necessarily, with everything going on, it's basically the disciplining our mindset to stay focused on what you're just talking about, Ron. Like for me, what helped us go from 47 transactions when I stepped into the brokerage in 14 to that 151 in 1 year. All it was is I would discipline myself for 2 hours a day to follow my sales and marketing plan and making sure that I got enough calls in to make the contacts to do so. And then making sure we had enough leads coming in to support the efforts, and and that kind of brings me to the next point. I think, Beverly, you have people, considering as part of the solution. If you look at like this key team, and some people don't want to build out big teams. So I'm not trying to sit here and saying you got to scale out some big team. What I am just encouraging you to think about is either number one, we plant our flag and make a decision that we're gonna be the rainmaker and get in there and dig in and let technology give us leverage, but still do our own follow up, like Beverly's saying, making sure we're following up, but also at some point with light at the end of the tunnel, saying, okay, the next level here is then, okay, who can help me give some leverage to this plan? I think Dvorka said one of her biggest thing is just managing all the different components to the different channels of marketing. A good admin can help you with that, even if they're part-time, even if it's somebody that's a younger millennial that's a little bit more techie than, I guess I'm technical millennial, but I'm more of a sales personality than a technology personality. So I naturally would try to find people to help me out with those things. And And then also having an agent on your team, an agent, maybe it's a buyer's agent or an inside sales agent on your team, consistently follow up with the leads that are interacting with the technology and making those follow-up calls and building that pipeline. Because I don't think I think we talked about a little bit, but Beverly, how much money is lost in the follow-up,
On that note, Isaiah, as you're talking, I see that as agents, and I was guilty of this, we lose sight of why we started and why we're doing this in the first place. And we dilute the fact that we're too good to follow up, or I need to be at an appointment. But we forget that the follow-up is what's going to get us at that appointment. And I was sitting here like just wanting to jump out of my skin when Ron was talking, because he hit the nail on the head. It's that I'll tee up an opportunity for an agent, and then the agent says, hey, can you follow up with them? I'm like, no, I don't know your market. Like, that's your job. I fished out all the dead fish, and I'm getting to you the highest priority. You have to take it from there. And I think it's that losing the perspective of, I'm not a follow-up person. I'm an appointment person. We can't lose that perspective, because it's just as important as the appointment.
Yeah, absolutely. One client that I love when I'm working with, she is fanatical about her follow-up. She's just fanatical about it and she's very careful who she outsources to. She outsources a lot of other things, but when she's got a hot lead on the line or something that's even close, she is fanatical about her follow-up. She also has a team of agents, of 10 agents now. And she's managing that follow-up process very, very closely, and she spends time really focusing on that follow-up. And that's why that's one of the main reasons, Beverly, I think, why she's gone from, she's knocking on the door of 300 closings this year, is because she's got the leads coming in. She uses our technology, but she is really hyper focused on making sure her and her team follow up properly and managing her pipeline, so I think it's really, really great dialogue. And that kind of goes to the next thing is you got your people, your process, and your tools. So the next thing is your process. What process are you using, right, to engage with the technology? And that's where I saw a huge gap in the industry, and I'll share my screen. And just as a reminder, most of you know about it, but in case you don't, just when you go into if you go to ultimatelisteningmachine.com and you go to the members login area, right when you log in, let me stop sharing here. All right, start sharing here. Just give me confirmation that you can see my screen, folks. So right when you log in, we have built tools to help solve the issue of the follow-up, and also knowing what plan to implement with your sales and marketing follow-up strategy and branding strategy. So this is when utilized, it can be one of the most powerful tools that you have, is this workbook here, because it literally tells you exactly, it shares ideas with you every single day on what to do. Let me just get down to the calendar part on what to do and when to do it. And this is the schedule I followed, like 9 to 11. I would protect that time like it was the most valuable time of the day that I had. That's one of the things that I would do, and I would get amazing results. There wouldn't be too many days I wouldn't go by not getting a couple appointments in that time frame on average, right? And having some really good action. And that's why I changed the course of Mark's business and my business, because if you're setting 2 appointments a day on average, think about what that does to your business outside of your normal referral base, right? It's extremely freaking it's powerful, and it's the quickest way to scale your business, period. I don't care what lead generation tool you have. I don't care what marketing tool it has. Yeah, I love it, Beverly. You said the compound effect. That's what would happen, is I would spend a little bit of time on new, but I would spend a ton of time on follow-up, and it would compound and compound. And I would make sure on every single call that was worth anything, I would ask for referrals, right? And that's something that's so simple, but we just don't do enough too, is asking for the referrals along the way as we're going down through it. And so this tool, just if you haven't got integrated with it, print this out, put it on your desk, and just try your best to either, think through it, or say to yourself, okay, who could do this in my office? Who could kind of follow this plan and get plugged into the system? So that way, it's not just a bunch of cool technology. It's something that says, okay, if I'm sitting at 35 to 50 transactions, legitimately, this can get me to 100 transactions if I'm consistent with this plan. And that's what it'll do for you over time. I've seen it time and time again. I actually want to take a minute. He's not on this call today, but I want to give my man, Ben Lang, some recognition. When he was averaging about 30 transactions a year when he kind of got re-engaged with me, and he just got his first plaque because he's on pace to hitting 75 transactions this year. So he's experiencing almost a double, he's going to double his growth. So I know we're kind of on Zoom here, but I want to show him this video afterwards. Can we give him a round of applause? Because I'm really pumped up for him and his success and that he's had with the program. And just so you guys know, if you're wondering like what that plaque is about, it's called the Rainmaker 2 2X. So basically, our goal is to help as many agents do $1 million in GCI as possible. So we have different levels working our way up to that. And he hit that kind of, I think he hit that second level tier. So he got a plaque. And then we got a bunch of people that have joined us. You can get your first tier on 1 to 75. You can get your first plaque if you just participate in 3 coaching sessions with us. We'll send you your first plaque, just as like recognition for how awesome that you're doing. And then with the goal to go to the next one. So these ones are actually going in the mail this week. Aren't they pretty freaking good? Aren't they good looking? Aren't they sweet? So just a little bit of recognition there. So we're at 155. So we've covered kind of the people, we've covered the process in the tools. Very sexy. Awesome. April, you're great. So I just want to kind of open this up for any other discussion that we might have here moving forward, and making sure we have action steps going in and making sure that we're better than we were next week to drive towards this goal. So while you're thinking about what to ask, how many people are that, if you're not already doing 100 transactions, how many people have that in their sights where they believe that if they truly believe, if they got their people and they got the process and the tools coming together, they believe that within 12 months or so, they could, based on what you currently have going on, that you could do 100 transactions or more? How many people really believe that? Or that's a goal that you'd like to go after, that would be meaningful for you, So I find that when we get caught up in, Kevin says, absolutely, if we get the right process started and running, awesome. Because I find this is might sound like it's 101 mindset, but I'm just gonna real talk. I find the number one thing is, if we get caught up in the muck of our everyday business, and we stop thinking big and believing that we can do it if we just focus on the right things and we really hone in our people, process, and tools. That's our number one barrier, is sometimes what we can accomplish in what period of time, and having a sense of urgency to work towards it. And that's why I like this think, believe framework, because if I think big and I believe I can actually do it, then my motivation, my energy is going to go towards accomplishing that goal and going after it. And I'm going to overcome those barriers that I see in front of me to make sure that people, process, and tool lines up, because I believe it actually can happen. Right. And so I just wanted to kind of talk about that a little bit while you're thinking, hey, is 100 transactions for me? The great thing is too, is if you're leveraging your time and you're getting more listings, you can do 100 transactions and still do it within a 40-hour work week if you get the right team to help you with some open houses and stuff like that. So you don't have to compromise. A lot of people are like, oh, 100 transactions, I'd be working like crazy. If you do it the right way, you don't have to compromise your lifestyle. If you get the right team in place and you're leveraging yourself on the listing side of the business, you're trying to work towards that goal too. So I know this is a little bit of a different format. I wanted to try doing more of a mastermind conversation and making this more interactive. So I really appreciate the participation, Dennis, and everybody else that has participated in here. Kevin, how you doing, man? I don't think we've met before, but my name is Isaiah. I don't know how long have you been with us, Kevin?
Hey, how's it going, everybody? So I jumped on with you guys, I don't know, maybe 2-3 months ago, and never really utilized the system.
Okay.
Mostly because we were brand new with the brokerage, and then I was dumb and went brand new with way too many systems. So it's one of those things that kind of just locks you up, and it's like, okay, what the heck do I pay attention to? Well, my broker got rid of KV Core and forced us to start looking into other options, and quickly realized, like, oh, wait a minute, we've got this CRM that we're not utilizing that has this AI built into it, and I don't know how to use it. So
cool.
Jump on and figure it out. And I'm like, oh shit, I'm already way past where I should have been on this call with you guys. But
yeah, man, well, look, I'm glad you're re-engaging and taking the time to hop on these mastermind calls with us. And we run these every week at 1:15. And it's all based around conversion and increasing sales is what these calls are about. We try to hit it from a little bit of a different angle. Today was really just kind of a high level on people, process, and tools, and trying to get them all to come together and waking up in the morning with that kind of focus and having a game plan. So is there anything that, Kevin, that we can help with, anything you're kind of dealing with that we haven't talked about yet here today?
Well, I came in at the very end, so I don't even know what you guys talked about. So that's
okay. All right, cool. It's all good. Sorry about, that's all
that's
good.
Okay.
Well, we got
that's
it recorded, so you can watch the recording. So,
so I'll watch that recording, I guess. And maybe if you covered it already, tell me, getting your team members. I'm a team of, there's 6 of us, 2 admin, 4 agents, and we've got probably 4 or 5 more agents coming that are all brand new in the business. So we're only 4 months into this thing. The team's growing way faster than I ever expected it to.
That's awesome.
But, getting them to engage in the CRM, getting them to engage in, just getting them to engage in it, because they didn't really want to engage in it, and that's why we haven't been using it.
Okay.
Well, can I jump in? The reason that it's this system is difficult because we have a CRM. I'm with Berkshire Hathaway, and we have a CRM, and it's much easier than this system. And at this point, it's frustrating unless you're using this. Like, I would like to know, what is Kyle doing, like on Mondays at 9? If you're banging out the system, because I am a great follow-up person.
Yeah.
I can do that. That's what I like to do. But you got to get it out there, and you got to let the system work for you. But you can't let the system work for you unless you know how to work the system. And I think Kevin and Dennis, these are his frustrations as well.
Sure. Absolutely.
And do you agree? We would love to use the system. We just don't know. We just don't want to spend an hour learning it. So if we can have like a workshop at certain times every morning on the different things that the systems do, and just stay with one thing at one time. Like, today we're going to do Zillow leads, and that's all we're going to do. Today we're going to do an update note.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. How many of you are in the REN success community? And I'm going to answer your question, Kevin, too. I'm hearing you loud and clear. How many of you are in the REN success community?
I'm in there, just didn't pay attention to it.
Okay. So if I'm going to go show you, and Bev, this will, I think, help as well. I'm going to pull this up on my screen.
I think that too, like, you guys have a very complex thing going, but which is good. It's complex in the back end for what you're doing. It's just, when we're looking at it from an agent perspective, when we've got our phones blowing up all day long, and I go in there, it's like, okay, I've got 2,000 geo leads here. What the hell do I do with all these? Well, this person's pretty active. Maybe I should call them. Oh, F off. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. You know, I know it's a numbers game, but it's one of those things that when you start first diving into this, it's intimidating.
Correct.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very.
Absolutely. And I can respect 100% where you're coming from, because it definitely can be. And one of the things, especially when it comes to, us being active in the field and all the different things going on, it's not gonna, getting a multi-channel marketing approach set up, I'll be upfront, it's not always easy, but I can promise you, if you're willing to work through it, it'll be worth it, because when it's done the right way, you can drive an additional 30 to 40 transactions a year.
Well,
Right?
can you put together a workshop so we can do it
Yeah.
a lesson?
So if you go to the REN Success community, look at the top banner, from 9 o'clock to 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Kyle goes live in the group and also has a Zoom link that you can actually hop on with him, and he follows that sales and marketing plan and does something different in there for each type of lead, in conjunction with a sales and marketing plan. So he literally does that every single day. And then the workshops run from Tuesday and Thursday, 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. And then again, 2 to 3 p.m. On Friday. And then actually, sorry, here's the times. I'm confusing everybody probably. Tuesday, Thursday. Tuesday is 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. Thursday is 2 to 3 p.m. And then Friday is 11 to 12. So if you pick Jonathan, if they pick a slot, basically, they can just sign up to the workshop, right?
Yep. You can just pick any of those, and it'll actually remind you inside of there what are available and what times they're all happening. And then it'll send you reminders the day before and day of to make sure that you don't forget that those are happening.
So Kevin, if you find a time where your team can get together, at one of those time slots, what we do is we'll train your entire team on the important things with the tool and how to get the most ROI out of it as they're interacting with it.
Okay. And Monday at 11 is our mandatory team meeting every week. And then we usually try to do some kind of, some type of learning afterwards or before. So if we were to do, 9 to 10, be like, hey, get your butts out of bed. And I don't care if you're at home, whatever, get on Zoom.
Yeah.
Before our meeting, we're going to figure this system out. Cause if we're going to use it, we need to figure it out. So I'm not just paying $1,000 a month and not utilizing it.
Right. And as you're going through it, I want to be, obviously we want to try to simplify it. And if it seems like the complexity is the technology or the plan, just let us know. And we're always trying to find ways to say, okay, how do we take something that seemingly could be complex and really make it simple so everybody can use it and have it, and scale their business with it. So we appreciate that feedback as we're going. So Kim, does that help? Did that answer your question? Or can you plug into one of those times? Do those work for you?
Yeah. How do you get there? Do they send us a link, or how do you get to these workshops?
Jonathan, that's you, boss.
So all you have to do is Kim and actually Kevin, are you guys inside of the ultimatelistingmachine.com, our growth academy? Do you remember that from your original call? This one right here.
Oh,
yeah, I got that. But reading the workbook is time consuming. It would be, yes.
Gotcha. So step number 2 in here is actually going to be, so if you go up a little bit, Isaiah, the very top one there is the Fast Start Workshop. You can register for the Tuesday and Thursday training right there.
Great.
And that'll give you all the available times. And then below it, you can also get reminders of the daily meeting at 9 o'clock. All 4 of those buttons there are all of the different trainings we do. So you guys can register for any, I would suggest registering for all of them. You'll get the reminders for each, and you can be then participate in each one of those there.
Okay, so we need to go to this page and then just register then from this.
Yep.
Okay.
Once you register once, it'll keep sending you notifications of all the other classes going on there.
Okay.
Right. I think it comes from Zoom, right, Jonathan? Right. It'll come from.
Yes, it'll be from Zoom, but it also say Real Estate Nexus, our name in there as well.
Yeah. It'll look like, yeah. So this is the registration page. This is John Lehman. He's really excellent at explaining how the technology works and how to use it on a daily basis in conjunction with the sales and marketing plan. That's what this one would be.
Yeah, see, now I had my session with John last week, and the problem with having a session with John is John takes over your computer and John's doing it. So just following what John's doing, it just got, that's the problem. Wasn't actually doing it. He was taking over the computer. He was doing it. Well, that doesn't help us because we don't know how to repeat it. It just,
That's some good
so much
feedback.
information just thrown at us so quickly.
That's some really good feedback. So actually, instead of him taking over, maybe he can share screens so he can show you where he's pointing, but making sure that you guys are actually doing it so you learn it.
We actually need to do it to learn it.
Yep.
We don't do it with someone taking over. It's just like when we have problems with our computer and you let the technician take over. You know, it goes so fast that you just don't grasp it.
Right. Very good. Well, this is good stuff. Jonathan, if you would just make sure, I know that they can go in here, but I want to make sure that they also get a link to the registration page in their email or through a text text just to make sure we're being proactive about getting, or if one of the professional services team could call Kevin and call Kim and
Yep, it looks like, Kevin, you're speaking with Amy Forster on the professional services team right now. And then Kim, I'll make sure I follow up with John Lehman there, and then maybe set another follow-up call with you there where he can do it with you instead of for you, and see if that's a better way to get a grip on things.
Well, and I just signed up for this fast start workshop. So obviously that's probably the best place to start.
Yeah.
And get in there and just start getting active with it.
Awesome. That sounds good. So just to kind of summarize it, and I'm going to, definitely make sure you guys, if you have it open in your time block, come back next week, because we're going to keep drilling down into this and just keep that framework in mind to say, okay, and Kevin, sounds like you're exploding, which is good. So you're going to run this. What's that?
Said it's good and bad.
Yeah.
Actually shifting back over. I came from Remax, went to my current company.
Okay.
It grew so fast when I did this. I was like, oh shit. I got to have support for all these agents. So
yeah, Ron and I are going through a similar thing. So we understand what you're doing. We'd love to collaborate on that any way that we can. We merged with a brokerage in Florida. So there's 220 agents or so that we're all we're coordinating all this stuff with. So, so we definitely, Ron's
exactly, Ron.
Yeah.
Some of us up inside our heads right now.
Yeah.
No sleeping. That's a real thing. When you do this, when this happens, like I might as well take melatonin and try and sleep. But
it's so true. That's true. Well, good. So just a couple of action steps here. It sounds like some people already have them. Other people that are watching us on Facebook, just really think through, as I'm scaling and growing my business, I got to hyper focus on lead conversion. And that starts off with making sure that I have good follow-up systems and that my team has really good follow-up systems and a good follow-up process. If there's any action step away from this, regardless of just the technology, if they have good follow-up systems and they're logging in, they start using it on a daily basis, and they start following up with the leads, that'll help a lot. So again, if we have enough leads coming in, lead conversion, to increase lead conversion and to scale, it's getting really strong follow-up systems in place, and it's bringing together the people, the process, and the tools all together. And we're going to keep working on that and keep talking about better ways to follow up, what conversations to have, better ways to leverage technology. And something for you, Kim and Kevin, that you're probably going to find attractive, our next technology rollout, we actually have the AI bot that is going to be actually following up with the leads for you. So the AI bot will be sending a text message, and over the course of 12 months, have a conversation. And when they get to a certain level of warmness, it'll try to book an appointment in your calendar or your agent's calendar. So that's our next rollout, is to actually have a text and an email, to have REN actually having conversations with leads in your database. And then when they get to a certain warmness, the agent can step in and we were really, really excited about it. It's in beta right now, but it's helping conversion a lot. So we're going to be talking more about that in future weeks as well. We're approaching the 2:15 hour. I'd like to be respectful of everyone's time. Does anybody else have any questions about the conversation or just with the action steps coming out of today's training?
No, thank you for clarifying.
Awesome. Well, if you're watching us in the private Facebook group, or you're connected here, I appreciate you guys hopping on here with a focus. Our focus here, anytime we get together, is all about lead conversion and scaling our business, and we're going to keep talking about that. And I hope you guys have an awesome rest of the week, and we're here to help any way that we can. We know this. We know the excitements and the struggles of real estate because we're in it every day, and we want to help any way we can. So I hope you guys have a great rest of the week.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you as well.
Yep.